first board meeting. I've said this many times. I walk in this room. I don't know any of these people, and they all got suits on, and it was very stuffy. And I'm like, this ain't going to go well. And one of the guys says, Coach, we just want to be a program like Michigan and Florida and Georgia, and a team that's really good academic. And I'm sitting there talking to myself, saying, keep your mouth shut. Just shut up, get out of here, and move on. And but Alabama in me wouldn't allow that. So I kind of cut the guy off, and I just said, I don't mean this disrespectful. That's not my goal. My vision for Clemson is for all these other schools to want to be like Clemson. I want to build a model program, and I want to do it in a way that loves our players, serves our players, equips our players. I want to have some fun doing it, and if it don't work, hey, I can go do something else.
That was Dabo Swinney after his national championship victory. A lot of people think Dabo was an overnight success, but that's not true. Clemson was patient with him, took a chance with him, and that's what me and Ellis from the 4th and 16 podcast discussed in this interview you're going to watch today. We also talk about the coaching landscape and the pressure that is put on by the media. Let's get it.
With the squad, mess with one of us, you ain't messing with my vision, messing with the money, you ain't messing.
What's up, guys? Welcome to NFD TV, No More Defeats TV. What we do is win, never take any losses, and shout out to all my bosses. Guys, if you love college football, this is the channel for you because I talk about college football 24/7. And today we're talking Clemson football with Ellis from the 4th and 16 podcast. I'm glad to have you on, man.
Appreciate you having me on, man. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem, man. Let the people know about your podcast and about what you cover Clemson-wise and everything like that and where they can find you.
All right. So the podcast is called 4th and 16. You can find that on iTunes, Spotify, Spreaker, CastBox, any of the major ones. I'm thinking of branching out to YouTube soon, so we'll see what's going on with that. I basically cover just Clemson sports, mostly football. Going to have some basketball, some baseball talk, even though that's coming to an end. But, yeah, we're going to be rocking all year long with that football stuff, man.
Good. So you touched base on, taking a chance on Dabo. Was there ever a time that – because Dabo didn't just come out of the gates blasting people. He struggled his first couple of years, if I'm not mistaken. What did you think about his earlier beginnings at Clemson?
When he came to Clemson, he was dressed off the Alabama train. He had been into coaching for a really long time, but he was relatively unknown. A lot of people didn't know who he was when he was given the job as the interim coach after the Georgia Tech game. What ended up happening is you have a guy who has no expectations. He's coming to this thing with a fresh outlook on it. He knows that there's nothing to lose. I think one of the big factors is that his first year as an interim, he won the rival game against South Carolina. And that's what really put him on the map. It was kind of like a struggle. It was kind of a test to see, can you beat your rival? He did well in that. And as you mentioned, he struggled in his first few years. He really did, especially I look to the 2010 season. Not a very good ending to the year, losing to South Florida in the Meineke Car Care Bowl. A lot of disappointment, but after that, I think he started to settle into the culture, what he had in mind for Clemson football and the program, its trajectory. He's been known to have a black notebook that's filled with just notes about what he wants and his vision and everything, and we're seeing that come to fruition now. The book is ever growing. He's still writing in it now. So it just took a lot of patience. When he was named, I know that there was half of the fan base were completely upset about it. They didn't want Dabo as the head coach. There's a lot of people out there. Pat Ford of Yahoo wrote up a fantastic article saying that he was a D+ hire. It was laughable. And now it's funny looking back and seeing them retread on those ideas. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, a lot of patience went into it. And I think his first year was 2008, right?
That's correct.
2008. Okay. I don't know if coaches have that amount of time. Like nowadays, it's if you're not winning the first couple years, fan bases are ready to destroy you because of the access of social media, YouTube, podcasts. It's like,
oh yeah, for sure. I'm glad you mentioned that. That's a really good statement. You think about coaches now that are successful. You know, you want to give them time, but at the same time, there is a pressure to win now because there are so many other teams that are ascending, and they're ascending fast. Like you said, Clemson didn't come out of nowhere. It's been building for a large part of 8-9 years now. So, there is a pressure to win now. I look to a couple of coaches that have been in that situation and are currently in that situation. Willie Taggart down at Florida State. Jimbo Fisher left them in sort of a disarray, a lot of negative culture there. And so when they bring in Willie Taggart, they're expecting to be back to the Florida State of old times. You got to give it a little more time. You can't just go right into it. I think there's a couple coaches that have dealt with that as well. You mentioned your Miami Hurricanes. I think that Al Golden was put in a pretty terrible situation and expected to win immediately. I think that Mark Richt was also put in a situation where, especially he comes in his first season and it looks really good and everything's going well, and then as it starts to trail off a little, you start losing fan base support and whatnot, and you get Manny Diaz, who I think is a perfect person to keep the morale up. If you give him time, he can build it. But if you're just going to cut him after the second or third year because he only went 8-5 and whatnot, you're never going to reach the status of elite again.
I agree with that. And you listening to you speak, it makes me think of what I've told a lot of people why Clemson is so good. And I think people, they underrate this, but I think y'all do a great job of keeping your staff. So if you don't have turnover every year, parents can trust you with their child that they're recruiting wise. Players can develop better. Your players are in the same system. Me as a Miami fan, we got Mark Richt in. Now he's gone after a couple years. We had Al Golden, he's gone. So we have a couple turnovers, and now it's time, I think, let's give Manny a chance. And let's give him a great chance. But like I said, with the way that we can put our opinions out there now, it's tough, man. It's just tough. But Manny is homegrown, so I do think he'll get a little bit more benefit of the doubt.
Well, you would think that, but Florida State, Willie Taggart, that is his home. And people are just rabid. But like you said, it's just the access to be able to have your voice heard. Even what we're doing now, just being able to have your voice heard is changing a lot of opinions when it comes to college football, believe it or not. Tennessee went through a situation where they hired a coach and fired a coach basically because of social media uproar, which is amazing. So, and you touched on the retaining of staff. Dabo has made it very clear that he is willing to have and this goes back to his notebook, that he is willing to have a plan in place to keep him surrounded with the coaches that want to be there. That's part of that culture that you hear a lot of Clemson fans talk about. He was willing to take a huge pay cut. A lot of his money that he could have been earning a long time ago went to his assistants to keep them there. Not specifically to keep them there, but he also paid them based off of what he thought they deserved. You have some guys coming on who's been on the staff for years now, and he's making sure that they are welcome. You've got a guy like Brent Venables, who could be a head coach anywhere, staying on. You got a guy like Tony, who could definitely be a head coach. His name was thrown around a lot of head coaching positions. So there's a lot of continuity there. It works for some schools to have some turnover. Alabama, for a good while there, they were turnovers. They were losing coaches left and right, and it really didn't affect them because of the level of talent. But you get to a point now where it's starting to affect them a little bit. This past season, losing pretty much all of the important staff is hurting them. So I'm glad you mentioned that. If you can keep your staff together, that's a critical key of keeping that culture intact.
That was a great conversation with Ellis. If you want to hear the full interview, make sure you click on the Patreon icon that's going to pop up on your screen. It'll take you right over there. You can sign up and listen to the great interview. Also, check out the 4th and 16 podcast if you're a real Clemson Tiger fan. Ellis talks about Clemson like nobody else. Show him some love. I'm out. Much love. No more defeats.